Welcome back, Shadowdorks. It is I, Grim, from Grim Games. Today, I'm going to give you a step-by-step overview of my latest adventure, The Fishmonger's Secret, made in partnership with my friends over at Bards and Besties. So The Fishmonger's Secret is a cosmic horror adventure, so if you and your players are into, like, H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, you're probably going to enjoy this one. And a big shout out to our RL besties who playtested this adventure, gave us critical feedback as we went through the drafting process. I highly recommend that you print out the adventure for yourself if you like to highlight, underline, add notes in the margins, and put sticky notes on things. This right here is in A5 format like a lot of the other zines that you see in the space. You can put some staples down the center spine. There's some good videos on YouTube if you need help showing you how to do that without messing it up like I did the first time. It'll do totally fine in normal 8.5 by 11 paper that you can maybe like hole punch and put into a binder. I do that with lots of the adventures in the space as well. So The Fishmonger's Secret is designed to be an intro adventure to a new party of characters, whether you want to use it as a 1 or 2 shot or perhaps a part of an overarching campaign. Could fit the bill. This adventure can probably be completed in 1 to 2 sessions depending on the length of your session. If your sessions only go for like 3 hours on a work night, probably going to take a couple. If it's an all-day Saturday thing, maybe 6 hours or so, you could probably complete it then. It's really highly dependent on whether your table likes to do a lot of role-playing or get sidetracked with comedy, or if you're really locked in on that tactical gameplay, maybe you'll burn through it a little quicker. One of the big inspirations for my work is the Darkest Dungeon video game franchise from Red Hook Studios, and in that cosmic horror RPG, the aesthetic is very much, in naming conventions, is very much referring to people by like maybe their title or a place by just like what it is. So like you go to the mountain or into the darkest dungeon, or you have to confront the ancestor or confront the necromancer or the swine king. And they generally avoid proper nouns. So I've adopted this style as well. So you are in Seaside Town and the Fishmonger is one of the main characters. You have the mayor and the mayor's son. So if you would prefer to have your own proper names interweaving your own overarching narrative or campaign, feel free to do so. That's I wanted to keep it open-ended for you. To add a little bit more time pressure to your player characters, I've added a special rule called Doom. Essentially, every time the party decides to take a rest and gain the benefits of such, they also risk making the overarching dungeon more difficult. This affects the adventures in 2 fundamental ways. First, with every doom counter that the party accumulates, it adds +1 to random encounter rolls. So the random encounter table runs on a d12, but with 15 different outcomes. The first 3 results on this table are boons, and if you rest once, for example, you lock yourself out of number 1 here, and open yourself up to number 13. And this side of the spectrum, not good. The other way in which these doom counters affect the adventure is at the end boss encounter. The dungeon master rolls to see how many unlucky tokens they get to use to advantage the monsters. And that can get pretty devastating. Let me give you a quick rundown of the adventure background. The Fishmonger runs a really popular stall in the market of the quaint seaside town. Her stock is in high demand every day by the villagers. But when the town mayor throws a coming-of-age celebration for his son, that night when the celebration is wrapping up, the mayor's son goes missing. During the night, a full search commences and yields nothing but more guards going missing. When markets tenuously open the next day, people quickly notice that the Fishmonger is nowhere to be found, and she never misses a market day. When the guards quickly search her hut, they find signs of struggle, as well as a mysterious hatch leading down into the Shadowdark. The frantic mayor bursts into the tavern, dangling promises of great wealth to any adventurers who could brave the depths of the darkness to find and bring back his son. At this point, you'll have your players roll on the rumors table and see if they can get some clues about what's to come, or maybe even a lucky boon. There are 8 possible outcomes. Just make sure that each of your players gets something unique. The adventure begins with the player characters climbing down a precarious ladder into this cavernous clearing below. Here they'll find one of the guards dead and another caught in a net trap, and evidence of him being dragged away from this scene. We go from a cave environment to some ancient construction here in Area 2, And with all of the chaotic scrawlings and etchings on this stone structure, things are starting to look even more suspicious. In the middle of the bridge, the players will find a discarded heirloom sword from the missing guard. This whole area is infested with a stingbat colony, and the bridge has tons of stingbat guano littered about it. In my headcanon, stingbat guano is highly flammable, so if the players inspect and understand that it is stingbat guano, make sure that you telegraph to them that it's highly flammable. And if there's a torchbearer, and that torchbearer drops that torch, could lead to some fire hazard. It's a deadly fall on either side of the bridge, and when players discover the old iron spikes set over here at the start of the bridge, they might be tempted to use them in some way to climb down safely to Area 7. Or if they want to brave the bridge, they'll be able to go over here to Area 3. For now, I'm going to proceed as if the players went over the bridge and into Area 3, but there's a lot of different paths you could take to complete this adventure. When you initially get into this room, it looks as if one of the whole areas has collapsed and it's a dead end. However, there is an illusion here that leads into an active excavation site. If players head south, they might discover this crawl space, which has a trap in it that could bury some people alive, and you'd have to frantically dig them out if you want them to survive. But that dig site leads to Area 4, which is the bottom of an old well, where the Fishmonger kind of has her own little hideout and study. This room has some great treasure, loot, lore, and clues, as well as one of the secret entrances and exits from the dungeon that the party can use if they want to safely rest back at town, but risk accumulating doom. Over here, players will discover some ancient tablets that give them the possibility of discovering some of the secrets of this zone. In this main section, the players might encounter their first run-in with the primary enemy of this dungeon, the Deep Ones. Here the players will find a giant centipede tunnel dug all the way to another section of the dungeon, so another branching path if they choose to take it. Players here might find a couple of different ways to access Area 5, the Lost Library. Inside, players might discover some magic scrolls as well as a tome that has some additional lore drops. If interacted with, a secret pass wall spell opens up this ancient restricted section. As with the tablets that are found over here, there will be scrawlings and scrolls that can be found that offer secrets, but will also attempt to assault your sanity. One of my favorite hidden traps is when they discover one of these scrolls, it could be that they find a tier 2 scroll. Oh my gosh, what a powerful spell. But it turns out to have some really serious side effects, as it is technically a magically transmitted disease, an MTD. If players manage to get into the Lost Library as well as the restricted section, there's some ancient parchment there that, if interacted with carefully, yields a really important clue on how to discover access to a secret boss that I've added to the game, because I love that old school strategy in video games where you have the main stuff, but there's a secret encounter over there that you could avoid entirely. Players explore down to the southeast. They might encounter a little friend that wants to join them on their adventure. Finally, the trail of the missing guard continues, as it looks like he was beaten silly, and a bloodied trail leads to the next area, Area 6. Now, when players get here to the shrine, this can be very dangerous. On the floor and dome all around you are carvings, scrawlings, and hieroglyphics. There's an idol here set to the east that the Deep Ones use to open up a secret passageway that goes down to their main base of operations in Area 12. If the player characters interact with it incorrectly and succumb to its hazards, it can open up a very dangerous portal to a trap that the Deep Ones have set in Area 8. If the players fall for this trap, they're teleported to the center of the bottom of this giant stone tub, and the Deep Ones that surround it immediately upon their arrival pull the lever. It starts to, over time, fill with water, and a net starts to descend below, eventually trapping the players underwater and drowning them, while the Deep Ones around the perimeter throw harpoons at them. These harpoons the Deep Ones use, particularly here, are set on chains on the walls so they can be easily retrieved. And smart players might use that as an opportunity to climb up the chain to better combat the deep ones on an equal playing field. But if the player characters don't think fast and climb out of the tub, defeat the deep ones at range, or climb up those chain link harpoons, taking advantage of that situation, this could very well be the end of the player characters, a solid death trap. It's not easy to access, but if you can bypass the grating on the drain, you could escape down to Area 9. There's also a way to ambush the deep ones from a secret entrance in one of the water pipes that fills the tub, coming in from another area of the dungeon. And then finally, one of the routes towards the end boss encounter can be had through the northern door here. But I'll come to that in a little bit later. Rewinding back to the ancient bridge, let's say the players decided to go down to Area 7. When players come to the ground floor of Area 7, they'll find a rushing stream that goes through the center of it. A lot of bones that have been chewed on that telegraph a deep one monster. And this could be potentially the first encounter the PCs have with the deep ones, alternatively to Area 3. They'll also find several hollowed out skulls where the stingbats lay their eggs, potentially being another way in which you encounter those stingbats. This happens to be the lair of the Outcast, which is a deep one that has been shunned by the rest of the collective. He's sort of in a perpetual state of repentance, wishing to receive forgiveness from Father Dagon and Mother Hydra, and of which he shall never receive. It's likely the PCs are going to fight this character, since, you know, he's eaten a lot of other stray adventures in the past. But it is possible, as his HP gets low and his cowardice kicks in, and his desire for self-preservation kicks in, that he could be persuaded or intimidated into helping the players. But there's a catch. He might betray the PCs at the worst possible time. He has a really good magic item on him, a +1 returning spear, but as with many magic items in Shadowdark, it also comes with a downside. Whichever PC writes it down in their gear slot, it cannot be removed until it's taken from their cold dead hands. It also is sort of emblematic of the curse that Father Dagon and Mother Hydra have put upon the Outcast. The bearer of the cold below, this spear, gains disadvantage on swim checks. So the Outcast bears a great shame, being a deep one who can't swim very well. If players head west down the stream, they'll find another secret entrance/exit of the dungeon and can safely rest in town again, possibly accumulating doom. If the players head east up the stream, they'll make their way to Area 9. The first feature I want to highlight are these secret shortcuts. Each time the players find one and decide to take them to traverse quickly to another area of this section, you roll on the randomized table for the nature of the shortcut, and then what you discover inside of it. It could be good, it could be bad, but at the end of the day, each one should only manifest once, so make sure to cross that off your list. If you follow the stream, it actually heads up northeast this way, and the highlights here is there is you find sort of a dammed up additional section of water trickling into the mainstream. Behind this, you can discover that secret path into the piping that will lead to ambush the deep ones over here in the fish in a barrel room. If you continue following the stream up, you'll eventually find its source, which is the underside of the tub. Under here, you'll be able to disable its stopper. You could climb up through and fight the deep ones, but after disabling that stopper, water will only continue to run and there's no drowning possibility. But there are some gray oozes that you can encounter here that have been sort of eating the scraps of dead victims that happen to be flushed out of the deep one trap above. If you head down the middle path, this leads into a geode-like room where there's tons of pink and purple crystals. This geode room is the home of a crystalline roper mother and her spawn. She's not directly interested in eating the PCs. She has acquired the taste of deep ones and is willing to bargain with the PCs. If they bring dead deep ones to her, she'll give some of her crystals in exchange. Her primary concern is finding one of her lost children who's wandered off, that the PCs may have gathered in Area 3 as a friend. In exchange for rescuing her child, she'll give you a nice magic item. However, if the PCs overstay their welcome or she is pissed off in some way, she won't hesitate to slaughter the PCs, and she might be too tough to handle for the PCs at this low stage. Here the players will find that corresponding centipede tunnel that'll take them back up to Area 3. And finally, if you follow the southeastern path that eventually bends north, this will lead to Area 10, the Chasm Void, which can be a nice scouting position to see a clue about what's to come in the boss encounter. Players come to this precipice where they're standing, before them is giant, vast, cavernous void, and they can't really see anything. It's just pure darkness. There's lots of air rushing at them. If the players stay here too long, the deep ones around the cavern notice them and start flinging spears, forcing the players to retreat or die. The players will discover an old skeleton here whose spirit jealously guards a magic sword, but there's also an old lantern, and if the players think, all right, maybe I should try using a lantern to see further deeper than a normal torchlight, and if they do, they'll discover a part of the large monolith that is sort of at the center of this giant chasm. And they'll see a tip of the primeval precipice here as a Deep One cultist scurries off. Shortly, they're going to start getting rained spears upon them, as, again, actually telegraphed on this area. He's impaled by a spear, and there's other spears, old spears, that line this cave. But when they use lantern light, they'll also see a strange shimmering effect that will sort of twist and coalesce around a portal on a lower edge of this monolith. And if they got those secret clues earlier, or they just feel like yellowing, right? Or they throw some items to interact with, seeing that twisted, bended light, they'll notice that there's a gravitational pull there, and this gravitational pull will slowly suck things in. If players take a leap of faith, or, throw some rope into it and are pulled up, they'll have an encounter with the secret boss. Quick version is you encounter a eldritch entity, and you're tested by it, and the typical rules of engagement related to your stats are shifted. Eventually, if encountered, player characters are met with a choice. They can choose to stick to their convictions and maintain the path of good, or they could join forces with the evils of the Shadowdark and gain some eldritch boons in the process. Back at the Offering Shrine, there's a few different ways in which the player characters might gain access to the secret Deep One area in Area 12. So if player characters take this route, they stumble upon a new temple being constructed in the honor of their gods, versus the ones that they're trying to reclaim from the past at other stages of the adventure. Here they'll find a larger group of Deep Ones actively engaged in construction. The town guard that was captured is also rescuable here, and can be recruited as an NPC and for the remainder of the dungeon. If you're able to rescue the guard and extract them back to town, your party will gain an extra boon on the carousing table. There's also a bunch of extra treasure that's stashed here, and one of the alternative paths that lead to the final boss encounter. Finally, we're at Area 13, the Primeval Precipice. There are two rope bridges that come from either Area 8 or Area 12 that the Deep Ones have constructed to get access to the top of this monolith that is at the center of the chasm. And at the top of the dais is a large statue of Mother Hydra. Feel free to check out the Cthulhu Mythos wikis if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Dagon, Mother Hydra, and so on. Suffice to say, the Deep Ones here worship her. When the PCs arrive, they'll find that another round of a fell ritual is about to take place. On the four corners of the precipice are these magic sigils, and in each of them there's a chanting cult elder matron. While the matrons are chanting on the sigils, it empowers the statue magically at the center. The Fishmonger, who's a Deep One in disguise and who also has traits that are a little bit more passable as a human, is next to the idol, along with, plot twist, the mayor's son, who's actually on their side and has been actively participating in this repeated fell ritual. This presents the players with a bit of a conundrum, since everybody here is hostile to them, including the mayor's son. But yet, in order to get the mayor's reward, they need to bring back the son alive. When the battle starts, make sure to roll your unlucky tokens from any doom counters. And when it's the monster's turn, after all the monsters have gone in combat, the Mother Hydra idol activates and rolls for a particular magical effect to occur. For each chanter that's removed from the sigil, the Mother Hydra idol loses power. Once all the chanters are removed in some way, the idol goes dormant and is no longer a threat. Once the Fishmonger is defeated, she has some nice loot, but on top of that, she has a quest item that gives the players good experience as well as opens up access to the sequel adventure that we'll have later on down the road. The Return to Town page will help you resolve some of the adventure's aftermath, whether good, bad, chaotic, or lawful. We have a bestiary section. Most of the monsters are directly cited from the Shadowdark core rulebook. Some of the monsters here, like the Cult Matron, might have a part of one monster like the Cultist in Shadowdark, as well as a mix of the Deep One, and some adjusted stats, as well as different treasure. The Secret Boss has a unique stat line, so it's depicted all here. But again, many of the monsters you need will be cited from the core rulebook, like Steenbats here, and that just tells you the page number on where to find them. We also have an alternative carousing table that you could use for this adventure or reskin it for whatever adventure you'd like. In the normal Shadowdark carousing table, it caps at 14 plus, but we've expanded up to 21 to take into consideration and to highlight and give extra special treatment to Kelsey's Bard character that allows and opens up further possibilities beyond that number 14. The table doesn't explicitly say the Bard by name, nor reproduces the Bard's mechanics to make sure we adhere to licensing issues, but it's referenced as the Wingman. If you roll one of these options, it can both help you, the one rolling it, as well as reward the Wingman or the Bard that you might have in your party. So further incentivizing your party to include a Bard in your adventures. Eventually, we'll add a sequel adventure called the Drowned Temple that you got access to after defeating the Fishmonger. But that about does it for the Fishmonger's secret. And that is all for today, Shadow Dorks. Good luck and Godspeed.